Hello everyone, it's Top Hat King, and welcome back to Grace, the story revisited. Today we're going to be covering the modifier exclusive entities with their respective document and traits. As per usual, before I start, I gotta say that these are just theories made with some help with the wiki, so take this all with a grain of salt. Also, we'll be getting into some stuff that may not be appropriate for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Moving on, you know the way that the documents are structured, and that is that they are into three: sin, taint, and scar. For the interest of time, I'll be primarily summarizing the documents while showing them on screen, so that you can read them on your own leisure. Because modifier monsters don't have an inherent order, I'll be going off of structure here, with scars being first, then taint, then sins. So without further ado, let's get into them.
His newly horrid outlines, a twisted tribute to the shape of your flaws.
The first scar on the list is Doppel. Doppel is an interesting character within Grace, and I think it's the simplest to talk about. Within the modifier votes mode, he appears if you select the uh-oh modifier, and will appear when you see the text uh-oh, bad decision appear on your screen. From then on, he works as essentially a mimic. He repeats the same moves you do, and upon contact, will make your screen change in color. He's not a game ender unless you choose the fatal error modifier, wherein Doppel will end you upon being touched. You can parry him in the game by flashing your light at him, and they'll be unable to hurt you for a little bit, but just know to keep doing that while you're in small spaces, or else Doppel will get you. Looking into Doppel's document, it stated that Doppel is, quote, "from your mistakes I am made," and it seems as if Doppel themselves writes it, with them viewing you going toward God whilst they remain, a constant reminder of your mistakes. And I kind of think that it's a representation of you, like, letting go of the weight of your sins through the assistance of God. They're also one of a few entities that talk to you in-game, having voice lines. Furthermore, with Doppel, it makes the most sense that they are our past sins and mistakes and made into a warped form of who we are. Hence why they look like us, just different. They also make an appearance in Reprieve. And, as one of the people in my comment section stated, they're actually much more hostile to you with their voice lines, actively hating on you in Reprieve, which leads to my favorite headcanon that you beat the hell out of them when you parry them as a consequence of that. But for more info on Zen and Reprieve, you can watch the video I made on them. So for Doppel is simply the mistakes of your past coming back to haunt you. Moving on, we'll be going up to the next scar, being Rue.
I didn't mean to.
Rue appears through the modifier left to wander. Rue takes the figure of a white shadow that you have to look at, with its indicator telling you when to look at it through it turning red when they get too close. Getting too close will result in an immediate game over, with text appearing on the screen, with Rue asking for forgiveness and what we could have been. Ominously, they also do state that they are sorry I made you like this, and stating that they love us. They are able to be parried, similar to Doppel, by flashing them, to which they'll thank us, interestingly enough. Rue's document makes note that you and Rue are similar, and that they ask for forgiveness again, and also asking, will you show him through you, and encouraging you to go forward with going to God. They are also seen in Reprieve, wherein you can parry them, gaining the badge A Vow to Reunion, kind of like a promise that you'll see them again eventually. Additionally, you can see a scribble in the save room saying to forgive with Rue's eyes, showcasing further that Rue is someone of our past that likely did something to us, or that we did something to, of which we must now forgive them, or we must now forgive ourselves for. Lastly, their bound trait, Kaklunny, is an anagram for unlucky, which could be tied to another entity we'll get into later, being called Ire, which we'll get into later on in this video, but for Rue's case, it seems that Rue was unlucky to experience your ire, if that makes sense. So Rue is likely someone who was close to you, like a friend or something, but after something unlucky happened, you pushed them away, vowing to see them again in Grace, wherein they are a scar left from your past, not wanting to hurt you, but one that did in the past, and one that you must forgive and move on from in order to get rid of them, albeit temporarily. Now with the scars out of the way, let's get right into the taints in the modifier exclusive version.
I know what you love. I know what you dread.
The first taint here is Pizro, as Pizro is backwards for worship. It's pretty rare to actually get this modifier, but getting this line of code, or wrong worship, put into a Caesar cipher, will have Pizro spawn in with your icons changing to say, and where is this taking you? Where are you headed? Where will you be in the future? Is this the right path? Or is it better to be lost than this? It then brings you to the void and jump scares you. Its document is also interesting as it's a twisted version of the God document, with God being read and its heart crossed out. The text is short, stating, "To know what's right, to know the way, to know what's good, and still go astray," with little sixes as the ellipses. Now, because it's a taint, it has something similar to the Dozer dilemma. Check out my last video to see what I mean. So it can't be a sin like blasphemy, like what the wiki hints at. However, the fact that you are rebelling against the instruction of the modifier, because the modifier itself just says just don't, alongside the corrupted image of God, I think I'm gonna throw my bets behind the fact and say that this being may be the original tainter of Eden, being Lucifer. Mainly because of the twisted version of the God document kind of being this corrupted version of it, kind of hints at that, but also the fact that you are actively rebelling God's warnings through choosing an option that even Pizro comments is the wrong path. But also, the Mandela Catalogue inspiration is a part of Pizro's design. With Mandela Catalogue, we see Archangel Gabriel, or at least the twisted version of him, actually just be Lucifer in the videos. So it makes a lot of sense that here, Pizro is literally just that, but in grace. Next up is Litany.
I'm always watching you.
Litany can be chosen through the modifier My Many Eyes. The meaning of litany is a series of petitions for use in church services or processions, usually recited by the clergy and responded to in a recurring formula by the people. It's also just a tedious recital of things. It fits with litany's mechanic of having eyes that you have to be sighting under or else you die, with it having 3 eyes, so the 3 motif that we covered in the last video is still here. Now, originally, litany was called coerce before being called litany, and with the document, it reinforces that it is coercion because it states every eye opened is a mere attempt to force you off path, holding your sins behind their lid. These eyes want to force you off the path and to sin. They aim to coerce you into giving in, and when you don't slide down, they will taunt you on their death screen, stating, "Why did you listen?" The repetitive series of litany also could apply here because that's literally its mechanic. It's just repetitively opening its eyes, trying to coerce you into actions you wouldn't normally commit. They also do make an appearance in Reprieve, and as mentioned there, you can't actually parry their eyes and physically attack them, and essentially kind of making the statement that you will not be coerced by outside forces whilst in Reprieve. Next up, let's talk about the sins, with the very first one being Cuckoo is an entity that can be brought into your game with the tick-tick modifier, and is in essence a piece of hardware. Its main gimmick is simple. You get a number to remember before it appears. Once it reaches that number, you have to de-equip whatever you're holding. Failure to do so will result in Cuckoo ending your run and giving you the blue screen of death, with the text, "Forgetting something," written all over it. The document of Cuckoo is full of error 408, promise timeout, with the last 3 lines being, "Was it worth it? Why did you not do it if you knew you were going to regret it?" Oh, also, if you have the shake item, Cuckoo breaks it, and with it stating that you knew too much, did too much, and forgot too much. Now, for what Cuckoo is, I'm going to actually throw it out there and say that it is physical sloth. It's kind of a failure to remember, which is why error 408 is so important. Error 408 just means that the request you send to a server took longer than it was willing to wait, timing the session out. Now, if you caught me saying that Cuckoo is physical sloth and you watched the last video and you caught me saying Goatman is also sloth, I think Goatman works to be the lack of spiritual effort that we the player puts towards getting to the safe rooms. However, with Cuckoo, I think it's the lack of physical effort to try and remember to put away our items. And it kind of works with everything we have here. Because Cuckoo is a computer program, our character is looking to distract themselves from the physical world through being on the computer. Perhaps Cuckoo could have been the app that we were on the most. It's not really explained. But the main idea is that because we were so focused on being on a computer or device, we were escaping, knowing that the time spent may be time that we would regret. So because of that, Cuckoo works to be that kind of iteration of physical sloth, because we weren't doing anything, just being on the computer, escaping. All right, this is going to get a bit more serious. Next up, we've got
You will be laughing still at the end.
Mime. Now, Mime is a bit weird. Basically, it's an entity that is always behind you, and its modifier is it just makes you happy. You have to flash it if it gets too close, and it has a bound trait called Tajinko, which is an anagram for cognito. It has several voice lines trying to constantly tempt you to do what its sin is. And as I stated with my little warning earlier, the sin that it is lust, and it's self-pleasure. This is reinforced by the fact that on their document, they also just kind of state that they can make you feel better, and it always goes, and at the very end it says, do you feel it? The pleasure, the sin that just entered your soul, lost to the feeling, before just saying good, and then basically laughing at you. It's also stated a lot in their voice lines, which, yeah, needless to say, Mime is very much leaning towards self-pleasure, and there it is. Moving on.
Nature herself, a victim to the spreading corruption, malformed with misintent.
Drain is brought into grace with the modifier resist, with the icon being the hand that Drain has. Drain's design is sorta a humanoid figure missing a head, and its mechanic is that once you enter the room it's in, it will quickly run up to you, actively attempting to grab you. You will need to flash it before it's too late, and its document mainly hints at lust, but in comparison to Mime or Elkman, it's more premarital cohabitation. Which, yes, that is a sin according to most major religions. Hence the reason why the badge for stopping Drain from getting you is called abstinence. I think it's honestly kind of interesting that Drain is the most human looking apart from something like Doppel, which I guess is just human in terms of being your Roblox character. Yet it's missing its head, which could be a representation of the fact of who it isn't important, but rather the fact that you did it is. It's also interesting that it distorts its hands as it gets closer, which adds to the creepiness factor to it, considering that it's close to looking human, but just has that off part of it that really messes you up. Also, its bound trait is called Kafde, or facade, which is interesting because it's a bitten apple, which could be a reference to Eve giving Adam the apple to bite, which could be a hint as to what exactly happened to our character, and the mention of it being addicting, maybe pushing the fact that our character succumbed to lust after they did premarital cohabitation. Moving on from all these sins, we finally got...
To those with a keen eye, gold gleams like a dagger's point.
Ire. Ire is chosen with the to leave to wander modifier. It takes the form of an eye with a smiley face in the middle, and the main mechanic of Ire is that when its gaze is upon you, you gotta jump lest your game end. Its document states that somebody making you feel sad, weird, angry, I can help make it even, with it later stating the instructions of making it even, but it's burnt. It later laughs at you in the document when you come to regret your actions. In-game, its jump scare when you die is also talking about regret, like in the document. And it states, you're going to regret that. Did you do it all out of spite, all out of revenge, all out of hate, all out of pride, all out of self-gain? What did you gain? What was to gain? Why spread hate? Have you not heard what your own savior said? With all of this, it's pretty clear that ire is a representation of wrath and vengeance. But it goes even further, because talking about the jump scare, when viewing it, it will show Rue's eyes. I like the way the person on the wiki mentions that your ire was what people rue, i.e. your anger led to many bitterly regretting wronging you. But what is left out is what exactly you did. You see, the bound trait for ire is an anagram for dagger, which, like I stated, is literally a dagger with the description ill ways of equality. Now, my theory for how your character dealt with people who wronged you was that when you got wronged, John Grace basically just stabbed them, with Rue, the entity at least, being a victim of that. And it led to you regretting it because they were someone who was close to you. But now, both of them are here. One asking for forgiveness for what they did to draw your ire, and the other laughing at your regret. Lastly, of those with documents, we have...
And now the true test. Hold fast or expire.
It's a rat. Well, to kind of get more specific, it's a rat that opens its mouth and you gotta shut it. It can either be brought in the shop, to which the seller literally just writes "don't" in huge text, or you can get it with the modifier "cheese to meet you." In its document, it states that you can feel some form of danger coming, and that the ones who bear witness and know the right thing to do shall show him through themselves and do it. In addition, the document states that you shouldn't be a spectator and neglectful, and that you shouldn't worry about shaming yourself for doing the right thing. Now, the creator, Simon, did state that Doombringer is negligence towards witnessing sin being committed, but I think that despite the fact that the creator of Grace said that, I think there's actually a pretty strong case for Doombringer fitting into cowardice than negligence. You're just gonna have to hear me out on this one. The reason I think this is because neglect does not cover the part about shaming yourself. The beginning feels like it's saying that you have to do the right thing and that you shouldn't be a spectator or neglect what you saw, and that you shouldn't be afraid of being shamed for admitting that. Cowardice takes that more than neglect, because with cowardice, you saw what happened but actively chose not to make the right decision. It's not because you don't know, it's because you're afraid of being shamed. So you're made a spectator to something because you chose not to speak up, neglecting the actions necessary to be done after witnessing something wrong happening. Now with those, we can finally... Oh, right. Those. Alright, interestingly enough, Epic Duck and Zomber don't have documents, despite the Epic Duck having a bound trait to it. It makes some sense given they come from the retro event, but they are still a part of the game, and because they don't have any formal classification, I don't think they're any of the categories here, but are more so ideas. What I mean by that is, I believe Epic Duck stands to be more the idea of childhood and innocence, with its bound trait Artuma, or trauma, being a signifier that the childhood of the character was traumatic, with the Epic Duck being a reminder of the past that we have to overcome. This is also kind of going alongside one of the other normal traits that we get, being Teddy Teddy, being the other side of that childhood, wherein Epic Duck kind of is a representation of trauma. Teddy Teddy could be this representation of naivety and innocence that our character had when they were a child. So maybe it could be that we didn't really understand what was happening to us when we were little, and it wasn't until later when that trauma came back to haunt us. This would also collaborate what happened to Teddy as he is missing his legs, implying that they were ripped off, perhaps as a consequence of that trauma. Lastly, Zomber is an entity that spawns when you get the Undead Coming modifier. I have no clue whether or not Zomber is canon, but I'm just gonna have fun and theorize about it anyway. Zomber is a zombie and will spawn every 2 doors and a horde of them every breaker room. They also give you a note that just says, "Ha, fresh meat," and consuming it will have a jump scare and end your run. I don't think they're attached to any sin, but if I had to guess, I guess they could be the idea of death in Grace. I mean, we know that God gets us out every time we lose in Grace, but the fact that death is a constant in Grace and that danger is ever present, death will loom over us constantly because of all the entities trying to end our run. The fact that other players can pass in gruesome ways as well is something we, the player, can see, because it's assumed then that that's what we avoid when God saves us. It's interesting that maybe, in some way, Zomber could represent that sense of death, that no matter what, you cannot escape it as it haunts every hallway, waiting for the moment for you to slip up and lose. So with this, the entire series, from Zen, Reprieve, and Grace, the entities and their meanings become clearer. We were in Zen until we sinned by going after the fruit. Sin takes us and we succumb to its fumes while Grace rots. In these fumes of sin, we fight entities in shame, constantly facing off against our failures, our mistakes, and our past. When we've confessed and repented, we are grabbed out by God and enter the new Grace, an area of learning and confronting our mistakes. We fail time and time again, but never once do we falter. And even when we aim for more challenge, like in Modifier mode, we soldier on so that we may learn and be with God eventually. And that, my friends, is Grace, the story explained. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.